Hello there, adventurers, and welcome to Wally DM. Today we're going to do a character build for the Way of the Ascendant Dragon Monk. Now what we're going to do is we're going to begin at level 1, and we're going to advance this character level by level all the way up to level 11. Along the way, I'm going to identify and point out and explain all of the choices that I make, but this is my first monk build ever, so if there are a few things I miss along the way or things you would do differently in this character build, be sure to leave a comment below. Speaking of which, if this is your first time here or if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do so, and if I get more subscribers for the character builds, I'll try to do more of these types of videos in the future. So I am really looking forward to today's build. I would like to introduce you to my Kobold Monk for the Way of the Ascendant Dragon. Okay, so here we are on D&D Beyond with our level 1 character, Javi. Now I'm already digging into the theme of my character because I have selected the Kobold as my race. Now a Kobold actually considers themselves as little dragons, so I thought it would be epic to have a Kobold that's eventually going to get dragon-like abilities. Now as far as a Kobold's race is concerned, they believe that they were created by Tiamat from the blood of dragons. In fact, kobolds willingly serve chromatic dragons and even worship them as if they were demigods. So one of the fun things about the Way of the Ascendant Dragon Monk is in the Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, it gives you a table that will help you choose your Ascendant Dragon origin. And taking a look at this table, I chose number 4, which says you spent long stretches meditating in the region around an ancient dragon's layers, absorbing their layers' ambient magic. And so I can see my character, my kobold character Javi, meditating, kind of maybe a little bit of a loner, but would go to the area where this ancient dragon is, too afraid to ever approach it. In fact, maybe not getting too close, but just close enough that he would probably camp out there, he would meditate, he would practice martial arts and things of that nature. But after so much time, he begins to absorb the power of this dragon that is in the area, and that is how it enhances his monk abilities. And then when he gets to level 3, that is how he's going to start acquiring the abilities of the dragon. So that's kind of the way that I see my character taking shape. Now, if you're familiar with kobolds, they only get a +2 modifier to dexterity, or if you're using Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, just 1 +2 modifier to whatever trait that you choose. Now, hopefully in the future, kobolds will eventually get that +1 modifier, so they'll have a +2 and a +1 to a score. In fact, you can ask your dungeon master, maybe they'll allow that, give that to you, that extra +2, +1. But as far as the year 2021 is concerned, we only get 1 modifier, and it is a +2. So I'm going to take that +2. I'm going to use a point buy system for my ability scores. I'm putting a 15 in dexterity, and I'm going to keep that +2 in dexterity. So that's going to give us a 17. Now the rest of my ability scores are going to fall out as follows: a 15 for wisdom, because monks require a good wisdom score, a 13 constitution, because we only get a d8 of hit points, so I definitely want to get as many hit points as I can. We're going to have a 12 in our charisma, and that is going to be due to an ability we get at 3rd level with the Way of the Ascendant Dragon. And then we are going to dump strength, and we're going to dump intelligence. Those are going to be 2 abilities that we're not really going to need. Now, as we bounce back over and take a look what a kobold has to offer as far as a race, we do have a 30-foot speed, we have dark vision up to 60 feet, and we have an ability called Grovel, Cower, and Beg. As an action on our turn, we can cower pathetically to distract nearby foes, and until the end of our next turn, our allies are going to gain advantage on attack rolls against enemies within 10 feet of you that can see you. Once you use this trait, we can't use it again until we finish a short or long rest. So if we want to send our kobold monk out before the rest of our party arrives and just kind of grovel, cower, and beg, then that first round of combat, hopefully we can give our melee fighters and barbarians advantage on their attack. It's not really an ability I think I would ever use, but it's nice to have it there if we want to get some kind of a weird plan pre-combat or going into battle. Now, the ability that is going to be really solid for our Kobold is called Pack Tactics. You have advantage on an attack roll against a creature if at least one of your allies is within 5 feet of the creature and the ally isn't incapacitated. So I do want to stop for a moment here and tell you that if you are going to be playing in a game that your Way of the Ascendant Dragon Monk is going to be the only melee fighter. Let's say that you're going to have rangers that are going to be using bows and arrows, and you're going to have spellcasters that are going to be standing back, and you are the only one that's going to be up in the face of the enemy, then you probably do not want to select a kobold. In this case, I would probably either pick a tabaxi or I would pick a variant human and get a feat at level 1. But Pack Tactics is only going to work for us if we have somebody else that's going to join us in melee combat. So if our other party members consist of maybe a cleric tank, a fighter, or a barbarian, or at least 2 of those, then I would feel very comfortable coming into a game with a kobold monk, because that's going to ensure we get Pack Tactics, and that is going to be one of our only advantages of playing a kobold. Now, to continue on with the Kobold, we have sunlight sensitivity. Now, this is a little bit of a negative. Again, this is the year 2021. Hopefully in the future, maybe we get something that offsets this just a little bit. But we have disadvantage on attack rolls and on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight when you, the target of your attack, or whatever you are trying to perceive, is in direct sunlight. So again, if we're going to be playing in a campaign that's going to be a lot of outdoorsy stuff and things like that, we may want to choose a different class, but I'm going to go with the Kobold. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And you can see our D for disadvantage down here. And again, that's just in bright daylight. If it's a cloudy day, I would say we're fine. And of course, this is something you could talk to your dungeon master about, and hopefully you can work things out if you really want to play a Kobold. Now, we already went over our ability scores. As far as our skills are concerned, the ones that I chose with my background and with my monk class are acrobatics. I think that's a most definite ability to have with our high dexterity and being a monk. And intimidation. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. Again, I only have a charisma of 12, but there is an ability at level 3 that I do want a little bit in charisma, and I do want intimidation. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Sleight of hand is a +5 and stealth is a +5. So decent abilities for our kobold monk. So what does a first level monk look like? Well, we have unarmored defense. While we are not wearing an armor and not using a shield, our armor class equals 10 plus our dexterity modifier plus our wisdom modifier. So I can tell you already with this build, we're going to concentrate on getting that dexterity and wisdom up, because every time they go up a level, our armor class goes up a level. So here at level 1, we have a 15 armor class, and that's due to our dexterity and our wisdom bonus. So we're going to definitely work on that. Now, we also get the ability called Martial Arts, and this reads as follows. At first level, your practice of martial arts gives you mastery of combat styles that use unarmed strikes and monk weapons, which are short swords and any simple melee weapons that don't have the two-handed or heavy property. Now, with this in mind, we gain the following benefits. We can use dexterity instead of strength for the attack and damage rolls of our unarmed strikes and monk weapons. And again, we dumped our strength with this in mind. Number 2, we can roll a d4 in place of the normal damage of your unarmed strike or monk weapon. This die changes as you gain monk levels, as shown in the martial arts column of the monk table. Our second ability, you can roll a d4 in place of the normal damage of our unarmed strike or monk weapon. And then our third ability, when you use the attack action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon on your turn, you can make one unarmed strike as a bonus action. So again, this is my first time building a monk, and I really like this. We get 2 attack actions on our turn. We have our action that we can use our weapon, and then we have a bonus action where we can either throw a punch or do a roundhouse kick to the head. So let's take a look at our weapons. So the weapon that I chose to use is a spear, and it is going to have a +5 to hit, and it's going to do a d6 +3 of piercing damage. Now, it did say in our martial arts feature that we couldn't use a heavy or a two-handed weapon, and the spear is neither of those. It's actually a versatile weapon, so we can still use it with 2 hands if we want. So on our first attack, we're actually going to have that +5, but then we're going to use that two-handed. So we're going to do a d8 +3 +3. So we stab with our spear, and then we are going to use a kobold kick or some type of an unarmed strike that's going to have a +5, and it's going to do a d4 +3 of bludgeoning damage. So that is how we're going to do our attacks. Attack action spear, and then roundhouse kick, or maybe even a headbutt, or who knows, some type of unarmed strike for our bonus action. Now, if you'd rather have bludgeoning damage up here as well, then you could swap out the quarterstaff. It works just as well. That's all I have for our first level monk. Let's see what monk features we get at level 2. So our kobold monk is now a level 2, and we get our key ability, which is one of the main features of the monk. Now our key points is set at 2 at this level, and it's going to be a DC 12, which I believe is off of our wisdom. So starting at second level, our training allows us to harness the mystic energy of our key. Now we can spend these key points to fuel different features. Now we get 3 features at this level. The first one is Flurry of Blows. Immediately after you take the attack action on your turn, you can spend 1 key point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. So again, our normal turn in combat was an action to use the attack of our spear and a bonus action for a kick or a punch with our unarmed strike. But if we spend 1 key point, then we still get the spear action for our attack, and then we can use a bonus action to get 2 unarmed strikes. So maybe 2 kicks to the head, or a kick and a punch, or a kick and a headbutt, however you imagine that happening. Now the second ability is Patient Defense. You can spend 1 key point to take the dodge action as a bonus action on your turn. Taking the dodge action usually requires your action, so if you need to take it as a bonus action, then that is nice to have. And I believe the dodge action will give whatever opponent is attacking you disadvantage on those attacks on their next turn. And our third ability is called Step of the Wind. You can spend 1 key point to take the disengage or dash action as a bonus action on your turn, and your jump distance is doubled for the turn. So that's also a neat other abilities, so we can use disengage, dash, or dodge as bonus actions by spending a key point, and I really like the way that this is filling out. Again, my first time building a monk. Now we get our key points refilled after a short rest, so that's handy, and we only get 2 at second level, so we'll want to make sure that we use those when they count. We do get 1 more ability as a monk at second level, and that is unarmed movement. Starting at second level, your speed increases by 10 feet while we're not wearing armor or wielding a shield. And as you can see here, we now have a 40-foot movement speed. We have a very fast kobold. So that's all I have for us for level 2. Let's level up to level 3, get our Ascendant Dragon abilities, and see what's next in store for Javi. So our Kobold Monk is now level 3 and has become an Ascendant Dragon Monk. Very exciting for this little kobold. Now one of our monk abilities that we're going to get, this is a standard monk ability at level 3, is Deflect Missiles. Starting at level 3, we can use our reaction to deflect or catch the missile when you are hit by a ranged weapon attack. When you do so, the damage you take from the attack is reduced by 1d10 plus our dexterity modifier plus our monk level. So here at level 3, that is going to be 3 plus 3 is 6, so we'll roll a d10 and add 6. If you reduce the damage to 0, you can catch the missile if it is small enough for you to hold in one hand and you have at least one hand free. If we catch the missile in this way, we can spend 1 key point to make a ranged attack with a weapon or piece of ammunition you just caught as part of the same reaction. You make this attack with proficiency regardless of the weapon's proficiency, and the missile counts as a monk weapon for the attack, which has a normal range of 20 feet and a long range of 60 feet. So this is really cool. We can reflect missiles with our reaction. There's no limit on this, so this is a way we can use our reaction every turn. So if we're taking crossbow fire or fire from like throwing hand axes or bows and arrows or what have you, we can use our reaction once before the beginning of our next turn, and we can reduce that damage by a d10 plus 6. Now I don't know if I'd want to spend my key points to try to throw that arrow back at him unless I'm trying to be funny or trying to be clever or something like that, intimidating if you will. But it's nice that we have that option available if we need it. But we do only have 3 key points at level 3, and we're probably going to want to save those for our other abilities. Speaking of other abilities, we are now an Ascendant Dragon Monk, and we get the ability called Draconic Disciple. You can channel draconic power to magnify your presence and imbue your unarmed strikes with the essence of a dragon's breath. You gain the following benefits. If you fail a Charisma Intimidation or a Charisma Persuasion check, you can use your reaction to re-roll the check as you tap into the mighty presence of dragons. Once this feature turns a failure into a success, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So if you remember at level 1, I did say I wanted to put a little bit into Charisma and take Intimidation as a proficient skill. We currently have a +3 on Intimidation, so I would probably use this more out of combat than in combat, though I could think of uses for it in both ways. But if we fail that Intimidation check, and should probably ask the DM outright, is that a failure? But if we do, then we can use our reaction, or for out of combat, just ask to use this to re-roll the check with our Draconic Presence. So hopefully we will roll a little bit higher on that next Intimidation check and get what we wanted to do. So I really like this ability, and coming from a small kobold, I think it's absolutely hilarious. Now the next part of our Draconic Disciple ability is called Draconic Strike. When you damage a target with an unarmed strike, you can change the damage type to acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. So one of the things I can see with monks is the lack of magical weapons when it comes to our unarmed strikes. Hopefully at some point we'll get a magical spear or a quarterstaff or whatever the DM may throw at us, and we'll have that available. But as far as our unarmed strikes are concerned, those are non-magical. So we can kind of just skip that altogether and use fire or lightning or poison in our attacks. So our kicks or our punch is going to be a cold slap to the face, or just lightning fast right to the chest, or whatever we are doing. So this is an absolutely great ability that I like. I love the fact that our kicks and punches are going to be turned into some type of damage that is not just bludgeoning, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Coming from my little kobold, I'm sure he's going to pick fire most of the time, but we'll have to wait and see. Should be really cool. The final ability we get with Draconic Disciple is the Tongue of Dragons. You learn to speak, read, and write Draconic or one other language of your choice. I picked Dwarvish because I already had Draconic, so not that big of a deal there. Now those abilities are fine and grand, and our little kobold's probably in heaven with all these dragon-like abilities, but this next one is really gonna blow his mind, and that is the Breath of the Dragon. You can channel destructive waves of energy like those created by the dragons you emulate. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can replace one of the attacks with an exhalation of draconic energy in either a 20-foot cone or a 30-foot line that is 5 feet wide. Our choice. Choose a damage type: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. Each creature in the area must make a dexterity saving throw against your key save DC, which I believe is a DC of 12 at the moment, taking damage of the chosen type equal to 2 rolls of our martial arts die on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. Okay, so this is a really good and not so good ability. Our kobold's excited about it. He can breathe fire or poison or whatever it is that he wants to breathe, just like the my god that he worships. He's now officially a little dragon. So thematically, this is absolutely amazing. But the unfortunate part about it is only equal to 2 rolls of our martial arts die. And unfortunately for us, our martial arts die is a d4. So it's only going to be doing 2d4 worth of damage. And it's going to be half of that if the targets make a DC 12 saving throw. Now granted, we could probably get 2 or 3 in our cone or in the line if we position ourselves right, but the damage isn't going to be as great, and it's not going to go up until 5th level when we get a roll 2d6. So not as exciting as it should be, but it's still a dragon breath weapon for our kobold. So I mean, that's exciting in itself. I mean, our kobold Javi's absolutely excited about it, so so we're going to go with it. But we get a lot of abilities at level 3, and I really like this level for our kobold monk. I think it's a lot of fun. But now it's time to level him up and see what's next in store for us at level 4. Okay, so we have leveled our character up on D&D Beyond, and I chose to go with an ability score improvement rather than a feat. I really like taking feats, but with our Kobold only getting that +2 modifier at first level, I thought that we needed to adjust our ability scores a little bit. And as you can see with my character builds, I like to set some of the ability scores to an odd number for ones that I am targeting for improvement or for a half feat where we get a +1 to an ability. So with the ability score improvement, I put a +1 in dexterity, putting that at 18, and a +1 into constitution, putting that at a 14, because we have low hit points, but we're still a melee ranged fighter, so we're going to need those hit points rather than the save DC with the wisdom. But at level 8, we'll tinker around with wisdom, and I'll show you what I do when we get to that point. Now let's take a look at our features. There was one 3rd level feature that we get from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and Tasha's Cauldron gives us additional monk features, which I thought was really cool. The first one that we got at level 3 was Key Fueled Attack. If you spend 1 key point or more as part of your action on your turn, you can make 1 attack with an unarmed strike or monk weapon as a bonus action before the end of the turn. So that's a nice little 3rd level feature that we get from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And another one of those optional abilities that we get is going to be Quickened Healing. This is a 4th level monk feature that says as an action we can spend 2 key points and roll a martial arts die. You regain a number of hit points equal to the number rolled plus your proficiency bonus. So here at level 4, proficiency bonus is a +2. If we go over and look at our level 4, we have a D4 still for our martial arts die, and we only have 4 key points. So I don't know if I would use this a lot. It is nice to have in a pinch if we need to get a few hit points or something along those lines, but it's going to absorb 2 of our key points, and we only get a roll of D4. So the most we're going to get back with this is 6. But in a pinch, again, if it's something we need, it is there. Then we also get an ability called Slow Fall. Now, beginning at 4th level, we can use our reaction when we fall to reduce any falling damage you take by an amount equal to 5 times your monk level. So here we are at level 4. We can reduce our falling damage by 20 hit points. I really like this. Feather Falling is one of my favorite spells, and this kind of takes the place of Feather Falling. So a nice ability. I mean, we could just jump off of a cliff if we know how far down it is, and we don't have to worry about taking damage, or at least not 20 points. And then we can do a cool superhero landing with our Kobold Monk. I think that would be a lot of fun. So that's all I have for you for level 4. Let's advance Javi up to level 5 and see what's next in store for our Kobold Monk. So here we are, a 5th level monk, and our proficiency bonus is going to now be a +3. Our martial arts die is now going to be a D6. That's going to help our dragon breath. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. And we get 5 key points that we can spend. So a very good level for us. And we're going to get extra attack and stunning strike. So let's take a look at those. Stunning Strike, starting at 5th level, you can interfere with the flow of ki in an opponent's body. When you hit another creature with a melee weapon attack, you can spend 1 key point to attempt a Stunning Strike. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or be stunned until the end of your next turn. And for those of you unfamiliar what stunned is, a stunned creature is incapacitated, cannot move, and can only speak falteringly. The creature automatically fails strength and dexterity saving throws, and attack rolls against that creature have advantage. And incapacitated means that an incapacitated creature cannot take actions or reactions. So Stunning Strike for a monk is absolutely amazing, and in fact this is probably where I will focus most of my key points in combat. I like Flurry of Blows, but Stunning Strike is absolutely amazing. Being able to stun a creature for that long until the end of our next turn is going to be a tide turner in combat for sure. Now, our other 5th level ability that we get is Extra Attack. Beginning at 5th level, you can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. So let's take a look at our actions and what combat is going to look like for us at 5th level. Again, we have our spear or quarterstaff if you'd prefer. We now have a +7 to hit. We have 2 attacks per action, so we get to attack with our spear twice. We can hold this two-handed, and it will not have any ill effects on our monk abilities, so that is going to be a D8 +4 of piercing damage. So we can swing once, swing twice with that, and then with our bonus action, we can make an unarmed strike, which is a +7, and that's either a d6 plus 4 of bludgeoning damage, or we can replace that damage with our Draconic Strike, and we can make that a d6 plus 4 of fire damage, of lightning, of poison, or things along those lines. So we can choose between bludgeoning or some type of elemental type of a damage. Now, also being 5th level, our martial arts die went up. So if you remember when we discussed this ability, it says when you take the attack action on your turn, you can replace one of the attacks with an exhalation of our draconic energy. So instead of going spear, bonus action, unarmed strike, or draconic strike, we can instead go Breath of the Dragon. So hopefully if there are a few enemies, we can get them in a cone or a line, and that is going to be a 2d6 of fire or lightning or cold or whatever we decide, with a dexterity 13 saving throw. So we can go Breath of the Dragon and then charge in spear and then bonus attack with our Draconic Strike. So I really like this way that combat is taking place for our character. This is going to be a lot of fun. Breath of the Dragon, also don't forget we get 3 uses of that, so this isn't going to be something we can use every combat, but if we're charging in, there's 2 or 3 clustered right there. Breath of the Dragon with our breath weapon, spear, unarmed strike, I really like it. Another additional ability we get from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is Focused Aim. When you miss with an attack roll, you can spend 1 to 3 key points to increase your attack roll by 2 for each of these key points you spend, potentially turning the miss into a hit. So if we roll a 12, we could spend 1 key point to make that a 14. We could spend 2 to make it a 16, or we can spend 3 to make it an 18. I'm not sure if I would dump all my key points into something like this, but it's a nice feature to have just in case. So that's all I have for us for level 5. Let's advance Javi up to level 6 and see what's in store for Ascendant Dragon abilities. So here we are at level 6 with our Ascendant Dragon Monk, and we do get a new Ascendant Dragon ability, so I'm very excited about that. Now our ability that we're going to get is called Wings Unfurled. When you use your Step of the Wind, you can unfurl spectral draconic wings from your back that vanish at the end of your turn. While the wings exist, you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed, and we can use this a number of times equal to a proficiency bonus per long rest, and this does require a bonus action to be able to use it. Okay, so Step of the Wind is very good for us to be able to disengage because we don't have the mobile feat, which will allow us not to take opportunity attacks if we need to run. So sometimes we're going to need to go attack, and then disengage to get away. But it is going to cost us a key point to be able to do that. Now I'm really interested in jump distance. I'm not too sure what that is, so let's look at that together if you don't mind. So going into the player's handbook, jumping, your strength determines how far you can jump. Okay, so a long jump. When you make a long jump, you cover a number of feet up to your strength score if you move at least 10 feet on foot immediately before the jump. So we're going to run and then jump. When you make a standing long jump, you can leap only half that distance. Either way, each foot you clear on the jump costs a foot of movement. So let's take a look at our Kobold. Javi only has a strength of 8. So if we wanted to do a run and jump, then we can go 8 feet. Otherwise, we can only go 4 feet with a standing jump. So with Javi, if we decide to do a long jump, which we run and then jump, we can now do 16 feet. And then if we do a standing jump, 8 feet. So that's an incredible difference for our little Kobold. But let's get back to that 6th level ability. So if we use the dash action or the disengage, then we can, and then use that key point to activate Step of the Wind, then we can instead have these draconic wings and give us a flying speed. So we could disengage and then fly 45 feet, or we could use the dash action. We could fly 45 feet and then use our movement to move another 45 feet, because this is existent until the end of our turn. So we can technically fly 90 feet on our turn with our Wings Unfurled ability. Now, this is interesting in combat. I think if we had some tactical advantage to use it, it would be pretty cool. But otherwise, I really like the way to use this outside of combat. As a big fan of Misty Step, being able to go from like one level to the next, we could use our Wings Unfurled and fly 90 feet. We definitely do not want to be up in the air by the end of our turn. Of course, we can still absorb some of the falling damage being a monk, but we'll have to plan that tactically. But I can see a lot of really good uses for this, so it's really cool. So Javi, our kobold, has these spectral dragon wings, and can you imagine all the kobolds that are going to be jealous of Javi? I mean, he's going to be able to breathe fire. His punches are going to do fire, cold, poison damage, and now he has these mystical spirit dragon wings that he can fly. Flying kobolds. I love it. Now, one more thing I do need to mention before we run out of level 6 is we also have key empowered strikes. So starting at 6th level, your unarmed strikes count as magical for the purposes of overcoming resistance to immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. So we can use an unarmed strike that now causes magical damage, or we could use our draconic strike, which can do like fire or cold or something. Very, very, very nice to be able to have the ability to choose between the two. So that's all I have for level 6. Let's advance our monk up to level 7 and see what's next in store. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with our Ascendant Dragon Monk. Now we do get 2 monk abilities at level 7. The first one is Evasion. At 7th level, your instinctive agility lets you dodge out of the way of certain area effects, such as a blue dragon's lightning breath or a fireball spell. When you are subjected to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw to only take half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw and only half damage if you fail. This is an amazing ability, being able to not take any damage while standing right in front of a breathing red dragon's fire breath. That's absolutely amazing. And I think if Javi were put in that situation, making the saving throw and not taking any damage from this type of an effect, he would just feel like the most powerful kobold ever. I could just really see that, and especially if all of his kobold clan was watching on as like, oh man, Javi's toast. And then once the dust or the fire clears, Javi's just standing there untouched. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Stillness of the Mind is starting at 7th level. You can use your action to end one effect on yourself that is causing you to be charmed or frightened. So this is really good. In higher levels, I see a lot more of this, whether you have the fear condition or you get charmed, and then especially if those charm effects make you start attacking your own party members. Being able to willingly get out of that is going to be really, really nice. So I like these abilities at level 7. These are just standard monk abilities, which I think really sets this class up a notch as far as combat and things of that nature goes. So very, very cool abilities here at level 7. But that is all we get here. So let's move on to level 8 and let's take a feat and improve an ability score. So our Kobold Monk is now a level 8 Ascendant Dragon. We get an ability score improvement or a feat, and I did opt to go for the feat at this time. So I took our 15 Wisdom, I got a half feat, which gives us a +1 to an ability score, and that was a +1 to Wisdom. So that will help with our Wisdom DCs. As you can see here, like on Breath of the Dragon, it is now a 14 DC. Now, the feat that I got is a brand new one from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons called Gift of the Gem Dragon. You've manifested some of the power of gem dragons, granting you the following benefits: an increase to wisdom, which we've already taken, and then we get telekinetic reprisal. When you take damage from a creature that is within 10 feet of you, you can use your reaction to emanate telekinetic energy. The creature that dealt damage to you must make a strength saving throw, and this DC is going to be 8 plus a proficiency bonus. So at this level, it's 8, 9, 10, 11. Plus the ability modifier of the score increased by this feat, which is Wisdom, which I chose on purpose. And so that's going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So a DC 14. On a failed save, the creature takes 2d8 force damage and is pushed up to 10 feet from you. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much and is not pushed. Now we can use this reaction a number of times equal to our proficiency bonus and regain all uses after a long rest. While I'm not as impressed with the push, unless that enemy or foe use all of their movement to get to me, they're still going to be able to re-engage in melee combat if they still have some movement speed left. But I do like the force damage, and I absolutely love the theme and flavor of Javi, our Kobold Monk, who worships dragons. His entire race worships dragons, and now we get another gift from dragons. Now I picked the Gem Dragon one because it had the best abilities along with a modifier. There's two other ones that you can look at, but I thought this one fits our build the best. So it's really cool that we can use our reactions. So speaking of our reactions, let's take a look at those real quick, because we are gathering a few reactions that we can use in between turns. So we still have our deflect missiles attack, which is pretty nice. We now have the gift of the Gem Dragon. We have our Draconic Presence, where we can react with by re-rolling an intimidation. So if we're in combat and we're trying to scare the foes into retreating or whatnot, then we can do that. And we also have our slow fall. So it's nice to have some really good spread out action economy with our action, our bonus action, and our reaction. So some great abilities here for our level 8 monk. So that's all I have for this level. Let's advance to level 9 and see what's next in store. So at level 9, Javi's proficiency bonus is now a +4. He has a 17 armor class, which is calculated with our dexterity bonus and our wisdom. So that gives us a +7, and armor class 17 for a melee fighter wearing no armor and no shields. That's pretty darn good. And of course, our attacks go up as well with that proficiency bonus increase to +8. Now we do get one ability, but let's take a look at our monk table. So here at 9th level, we have our +4 proficiency bonus. Our martial arts die is still a D6. We have 9 key points that we can use, and we still have that 15 foot of movement, but now we get an ability called Unarmored Movement. At 9th level, you gain the ability to move along vertical surfaces and across liquids on your turn without falling during your move. We're going full martial arts here with our kobold. He can move along vertical surfaces. It's almost like a spider climb, but I can see it more in the movement where he can like run around folks by just jumping on the side of the wall, running vertically for a while and then hopping back down into the room. I mean, that's just absolutely fun, amazing, and imaginative. Really cool. And across liquids. Now, I would probably assume that this would be if he needed to run across a river, we could use our bonus action to dash. So if we have, or maybe a creek, we've got 90 feet of movement that way, 45 plus our 45 to dash. So we could run 90 feet. So if we needed to run across a 85 foot or 90 foot creek, we could do so. So that's absolutely amazing. Or if there is some effect like a grease spell or something that would cause him to slip, or if he needs to run across an acid pit, he's going to be able to do so. So that is really cool. I'm super stoked about that. Such a acrobatic, fun kobold to play. So that's all I have for us for level 9. Let's move up to level 10. So here we are with Javi at level 10, and monks at this level get 2 passive abilities. The first is we get another improvement to our unarmored movement speed, which is now 50 feet. And remember, if we take the dash action, that's 100 feet. So if we need to dash across an acid pit or water, we can do that with 100 feet of movement. Super cool. And then our other ability that we get is Purity of the Body. Purity of Body, which is going to give us immunity to poison and to disease. So fantastic defensive abilities for us. That's it for level 10. Let's move on to level 11. So our Way of the Ascendant Dragon Monk is now level 11. Let's take a look at our monk table. Our proficiency bonus is still a +4, but our martial arts die is now a D8. And we have 11 key points that we can use, making our combat maneuvers fantastic. Again, stunning strike and a few of our reactions and stuff. It's nice to have a bank of key that we can depend on. And also don't forget that the key points refill after a short rest, which is fantastic for us. So looking at things like that, our Breath of the Dragon is now a 3d8 of damage. So I am really liking this. I was not very keen on this ability at 3rd level. I was liking it a little bit more at 5th level, but here at 11th level, we now have a 3d8. And again, our combat action economy, we get 2 attacks. We can use one of those attacks for our spear and the other for our Breath of the Dragon. Very cool. But enough about that. Let's talk about our new Ascendant Dragon features. So this one is going to be aspect of the Wyrm. The power of your Draconic spirit now radiates from you, warding your allies or inspiring fear in your enemies. As a bonus action, you can create an aura of Draconic power that radiates 10 feet from you for 1 minute. For the duration, you gain one of the following effects of your choice. So we can choose either Frightful Presence or Resistance. With Frightful Presence, when you create this aura and as a bonus action on subsequent turns, you can choose a creature within the aura. The target must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw against your key save DC or become frightened for 1 minute. And I believe our DC at this time is 14. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a successful save. So our aura is 10 feet around, and that's not really that big of a deal. At first I was a bit disappointed that it was only 10 feet around us, but the more I thought about it, we are going to be in melee combat, and that's where we need to help out our fighter, our paladin, our barbarian, our war cleric, whoever else is also in melee combat with us, and to keep that stuff concentrated there. So if there is a enemy that is in front of us that is a little bit too powerful, we need to get away from them. Hopefully we can use our Frightful Presence to make them afraid of us and to have them get away. So that would be a good use for it there. Or, and I like this one a lot better, we can use Resistance. Choose a damage type when you activate this aura, either Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Poison. You and your allies within the aura have resistance to that damage. Now, once you create this aura, you can't create it again until you finish a long rest, unless you spend 3 key points to create it again. I'm going to be saving my aspect of the Wyrm for a major boss battle or our major combat for the day. It's activated on a bonus action, and that 10 feet aura shouldn't affect things too much. Again, we are going to be in melee combat, and hopefully we're playing this character with other melee fighters that can also benefit from it. So I really do like this ability. I think it could be just a little bit better, but I'm pretty satisfied. I think the theme of the aspect of the Wyrm, giving this resistance, giving this frightful presence because of our draconic spirit that's radiating from us, is going to make Javi a very happy kobold. And I think this will be better than it looks on paper when we actually get to use this in combat. So this ability is growing on me. I kind of like it. So let's take one final look at our character in combat. Again, we have 2 attacks per turn, and we can make those with our spear, or we can use one of those attacks to have our Breath of the Dragon and an attack with a spear. Very cool. And don't forget too that we are a kobold, so if we have another ally that's within 5 feet of us that's attacking, then we get advantage on all of our attacks because of pack tactics. So if we're attacking twice with the spear and we've got our barbarian right there next to us and we're just in combat fighting, then we get advantage on both attacks plus on our unarmed strike attacks. Really cool. And speaking of our unarmed strike attacks, don't forget too, these are bonus actions. Our martial arts die is now up to a D8 plus 4, which is really cool. And we can either make that magical bludgeoning damage from our fists or a draconic strike with some type of elemental damage. So I really like the monk. I've never played one before, but I really dig the way that this character is focused on combat. That is all that we get at level 11, and at level 12 I would probably look at taking another ability score improvement, the +1/+1, and I would put both of those into our dexterity and get our dexterity up to a 20, so that gives us a +5 modifier. And just as a reminder, that is not only going to help us on our hits, that will take those up to a +9 to hit, but that's also going to take our armor class up to 18. So the only feat that I'm going to take for this character was at level 8, and the rest of the way out I'm going to be getting that dexterity and that wisdom up to a 20. So we have a +5 modifier in both, and our armor class keeps going up. Now, while we're done leveling our character for the day, I do want to mention a 17th level ability of the Ascendant Dragon Monk, and this is called Ascendant Aspect. Your Draconic Spirit reaches its peak. You gain the following benefits. Augment Breath. When you use your Breath of the Dragon, you can spend 1 key point to augment its shape and power. The exhalation of Draconic energy becomes either a 60-foot cone or a 90-foot line that is 5 feet wide, our choice. And each creature in that area takes damage equal to 4 rolls of our martial arts die on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. Taking a look at a 17th level monk, that is going to be a D10. So that is starting to become quite the weapon. Again, I wasn't happy with it at level 3, but at level 17, it's got a little bit of potency to it. So I really like it for our Kobold Monk. Second ability that we get is Blind Sight out to 10 feet, which is pretty decent. And then we also get Explosive Fury. When you activate your aspect of the Wyrm, Draconic Fury explodes from you. Choose any number of creatures you can see in your aura. Each of those creatures must make a Dexterity saving throw against your key save DC, or take 3d10 acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison damage of our choice. Now, again, the key part of this is we get to choose any number of creatures, because this is an ability that we're going to activate while we are in combat, and that is going to be melee combat. So we'll be able to protect our friends, but if we've got like 2 or 3 different enemies that are trying to smash down on us in melee combat, we can use this to cause some extra damage, and I really like it. So very much in flavor and theme with a Draconic Monk build. So that is Javi, my Way of the Ascendant Dragon Monk. Now, from what I've read, this isn't the most powerful of monk classes, and it could be a little bit better, but I still feel that this would be an amazing character to play. Again, I like to play more on theme than I do optimization, so taking Javi into battle as an Ascendant Dragon Monk Kobold is going to be absolutely amazing. Imagine these dragon-like creatures, these little dragons that have always worshipped dragons, and now Javi actually becomes a dragon. He is going to be a legend in his Kobold clan. That's all I have for you today. What did you think of our Ascendant Dragon Monk? Is this a character that you would play in your game? And if so, how would you build this character differently? Be sure to subscribe and leave a comment below, and let me know what you think of the Ascendant Dragon Monk. Thank you very much for watching, and on to the next.